I went to Bali to make a film, but I got completely ghosted by my subject. So here's what happened instead. This is the story of how the film Underneath the Adventure came to be. The film is featuring Martin, who spent the last 13 years of his life focusing on building a resort in Gili Trawangan, about him questioning his life choices, about logistics and his inner demons.
Building this kind of idea of this is actually where I want to be, where I want to be living. It has to be possible to create something on this side of the world.
I've just come back to the hotel after meeting Martin and shooting the first day. And the story how I met Martin is really interesting. It's again proven that serendipity works. As a behind-the-scenes film, this might be a little bit different, since I was the only one in the production team.
I'm excited.
I don't have a lot of footage from the actual shooting.
I mean, look at this. Couldn't go all wrong, could it? And this is just 1 minute above the chaos of Canggu.
But what is interesting here are some side stories about this whole production.
It's 6:45 in the morning. I just met up with Martin. Looking good. Got a nice shirt on.
Yes.
Film for the first time to see if this film is going to be something that number 94. I hope so.
We'll talk about the feeling when all your plans get destroyed, about how I acquired all the archive footage from a basement in southern Sweden, the handwritten paper on a beach titles that we used throughout the film, and the challenges of filming something like this with only one backpack of gear.
MD16.
But let's back up a bit. What do I mean I got ghosted? I came to Bali. I had one vision about the film that I was going to do, but it didn't seem to happen. After realizing I wouldn't get a reply from Sungai Watch, I felt really disappointed. I had visualized the whole film in my head, and now I wouldn't get to make it. But I let it go, and I focused on myself and making the most out of my stay in Bali. Surfing, working out at the gym, and doing some remote work with clients back in Sweden. And I thought, okay, this feels pretty good too. And as so often happens, when you let go of something, a new opportunity presents itself. Then I did a voiceover recording online with Sweden for a client. And the guy who was reading the voice told me, you're in Bali, you should meet up with my sister and her husband. Because they live there, they've been living there for 2 years now. I thought, okay, that would be nice. So I met up with them, and just when I was about to leave, they said, by the way, we should get you in contact with Martin. He's our friend, and I think you will like him. We went to a party on the first time we met. It was really loud music and hard to talk, but we understood enough. And he has such an amazing story. And the more I thought about it, the more clear it became that this story is interesting and something that deserves to be told.
My name is Martin, and welcome to Lost Paradise.
If he could make me hooked on the story when I hardly could hear him speak, it's a sign it's a really good story. So we decided to go together to his place in Gili during the week after and try to make this story come alive. But before we went, I asked him to meet up with me for a sunrise shoot just outside of Canggu to start and collect some footage. Part of it was to get to know each other better, but also to figure out how it is working together like this.
So I'm wearing this rain jacket, and underneath it I have my sun SPF shirt. So I'm prepared for both. And I hope the drone is too.
And then we wanted coffee, but the place where we met wasn't open yet at 6:30.
Bukan, belum bukan. Ya nanti ya. Karena mau beli kopi, di sini nggak bisa. Nggak bisa kopi. Okay. Ya, later ya. Okay.
So Martin drove off to a local Balinese cafe where takeaway apparently is not the norm. He returned with 2 open plastic cups like the ones you use for water.
What's this?
Coffee.
They were filled with burning hot coffee, all wrapped in a plastic bag. It was a messy experience to share that coffee while the sun slowly started to turn up the saturation of all the colors in this beautiful landscape. It looked like it was gonna be a nice day.
I'm out here walking on rice field to get a good angle for a shot.
And about a week later, it was time to go on the trip.
It's 5:50 in the morning and I'm off to Canggu station, which is not really a station. But this is where I'll meet Martin and we are going to take a shuttle bus somewhere and take a boat somewhere to go to Gili. Here we go. Good morning.
Yeah. All right.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Hi.
Nice.
What do you have here?
Tickets to the islands.
Very good. Look at this. Trolling. Good, thank you.
Det är en stjärna på posa.
Det här är bästa ställningen.
So the boat ride went okay, and I'm happy to say that I'm chewing this chewing gum, and this made me not feel sick while on the water. So we have arrived on Gili, my first time in a Gili island. I'm excited. It looks beautiful. You want this? Där man kan se.
Välkomna. Välkomna, välkomna.
We filmed a lot in the resort in Gili, but somehow it's never enough. When there's no real plan in place for how to visualize the story, which there was no time to prepare for here, the only thing to do is try to film everything. Find different moods, colors, settings, and then hope it will work out with the story that you want to tell. I will talk more about this in a little bit. On the final full day in the island, we made the interview. I think Martin got very nervous about it because he got sick the night before and he didn't come out of bed until like 4 p.m.
All right. How do you feel?
Me, I feel pretty good.
But the interview turned out amazing. He really opened up to me, sharing his feelings about all of these years, how it did really take a big toll on his mental health and the loneliness he experienced during this time period, but also fun parts and some really amazing memories and stories.
You've been interviewed now for about an hour and 6 minutes.
Yes.
How's that?
Was it that long, yeah?
Yes, I
Something.
already. Yeah. Told you, there was nothing to be worried about. This is the setup. Got the red Komodo, and we got Martin, and we got my iPhone as the monitor. It's a brilliant setup. It works really well. Here we have today's lighting setup. It's very elaborate. It's not doing anything at all, but it feels good to have a light on.
Since we started the interview so late in the day, the sun was setting, the light was constantly shifting and disappearing basically. At first it was well exposed, but then as we went along I constantly had to up the ISO of the camera and open up the aperture to extreme levels. Finally there was nothing else I could do. The final 15 minutes of the interview goes from visible to complete darkness.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you so much.
And that's a tropical sunset. It's so fast.
Thank you for these days.
Thank you too. It was amazing days. Amazing.
Yeah. So glad I met you. Det är ur skärpa, men det får vara.
Yeah.
After the filming days were done, we went back to Canggu and I did some more surfing until it was time to go back to Sweden. We met up for breakfast on the morning of my departure, we hugged and we said, see you soon. Because that much was obvious, this was not the last time that we met. So the thing about not having enough footage. I traveled back to a very grey February Sweden, and as usual I got hit by the inverted homesickness. I just wanted to go back. But I was looking forward to start editing this. Since this story is playing out over a 13-year period, I had to figure out a way to get all the archive footage that Martin has collected over the years. He tells me he's dumped everything from his phones, cameras and video cameras and you name it, into a single hard drive that is located in the basement of his mother's house in Lund in southern Sweden. A 7-hour drive. So what do? It's time to go and pick up a hard drive. I left Bali a couple of weeks ago and now it's time to go to Martin's mother's house in Lund in Skåne in southern Sweden to pick up a hard drive with all of his old footage on. We're really gonna need it for this film. So let's do it. He's emptied all of his cameras over the last 10 years onto this hard drive and I'm gonna go there and try to find it. So the thing is, I'm not sure if Martin's mother knows yet that I'm coming, but I guess she'll find out. All right, let's do this. Lund, here we come. Hey baby.
Hello.
She has 4 meetings that she's gonna do in the car.
And I packed in a bag. A different kind of bag.
Traveling the very beautiful streets of Lund on an extraordinary grey day. 600 kilometers from Stockholm to Lund. I hope it contains a lot of construction, original content that we would never have been able to recreate otherwise, and some hidden gems that can improve the story and improve the experience of viewing the story. Here it is. I have it. I found it in a box with tape on it, together with some glasses and kitchenware. But it was there. So now let's go home and start editing. After retrieving it, Martin is a bit reluctant at having me browsing through his entire library of private files from his entire life. So I hook up the hard drive to a computer at the office with TeamViewer so that he, over a very slow Indonesian internet connection, can connect remotely and sort through and pick the footage he thinks is the most relevant for the film. And off we go. As usual, the editing starts with sorting out the interview, breaking it down into topics, cleaning it up from and repeating parts, and then start moving it around and make it shorter. It's a 1 hour and 45 minute long interview that has to be cut down to maybe 20. It's a huge process, and it really requires killing some darlings. Luckily, Isak and I have figured out that when some parts are really good but too long to be in the film itself, there is a solution. We have invented this new format that we call spotlight stories, which are like topic isolated spin-offs from the main story.
It makes everything so much easier
to choose, because there is like a chance at a second life for the good parts that doesn't qualify directly.
And everyone was telling me, like, oh, don't do it. You can't like make these huge stairs. Like in the pool, you have a big pool. This like eats like a quarter of the entire pool. And I was like almost listening to everyone. I was like, but in the end, luckily, I was like, no, fuck everyone. This one, I'm gonna do exactly as I want it.
A big part of working with old equipment is realizing that you're not in control and you have to embrace the randomness of that. It changes constantly.
By following this process, anyone can make their own fresh organic supplements. Dehydrator, grinder, capsule machine. It's pretty empowering, and I'm curious as to why we don't talk about it more.
When the interview is done, we sit down together and start making it visually nice, adding music and all of that. It also takes a lot of time to make that part match the emotional state of that in the story. And once this is done, we spend maybe 2 days grading the whole thing, and I never get completely satisfied with the grading. So in the future, when I have budgets for these films, that work is going to be done by experts. But when the film is almost completed, I realized for this film, instead of making titles digitally in the editing, I wanted a bit more of an analog touch to it. So today we're gonna make our title sequence. Something that feels a bit more like Bali and has a more unique look. I was inspired by a film where they had this beautiful title sequence in the end with handwritten notes on paper that they filmed. We went to an art store to buy it and asked for some recommendations how to make it look like an old treasure map. And they said, painted with black tea. So we have some black tea and some brushes here. We also have this idea of putting it right on the waterline and having a wave coming in and wash the sand away. But we only get one shot on that, so that's gonna be sort of a last thing that we do.
Step one.
Step one, done. This is fun. What do we think? It looks more like Indiana Jones than Metallica, and that's a good thing. Compare this one. En supervid bild på det här, bara för att se hur stört det är att vi är här. This is acting on a high level. This is Bali. Everyone can see it is, right? Perfect. I think it worked, and the film is finally done. I think this might be the best thing I've ever created. My biggest takeaway from this whole story is the one I had when I had filmed Martin for the first time. And then we started talking about his life and my life and how they align somehow, but in opposite ways. When he was 27 or something like that, he had been traveling for 5 years, working for one season, saving up money, and then go traveling the rest of the year. And he decided to buy some land in Gili Trawangan.
When I saw the land that I was offered, it was definitely not like the most beautiful land.
Me, on the other hand, when I was 27, I started a family, which is the complete opposite. And I always thought that starting a family would rob me of these opportunities to travel and go away, to be away for a long time and live abroad and everything. And he thought the exact same thing, but the opposite way, that deciding to do this project robbed him of the idea of starting a family, having a steady relationship. And again, it's the question about us humans and the thought that we have about the grass always being greener on the other side. And the more people I meet and the more people I talk to about this, everybody realized that that's how they think. Everybody also understands with their logical sense that it's not the case. So this concludes this BTS thing for this time, and I hope you enjoyed it and it inspired you to make something good today. So all that remains now is to press that subscribe button and then smile at a stranger today. Thank you for watching.
Wow. What you do for filmmaking, all right?
Yeah, waterproof shoes, but I forgot I'm wearing socks. They were not waterproof.
What? You don't have waterproof socks?